I'm 84 years old. My name is Margaret, and I live alone in this house. I raised 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. I gave them everything I had, but right now my phone hasn't rung in days. This is something nobody ever tells parents, honestly. 'Cause once you hear it, something inside you just breaks. I spent my whole life on those kids. Up before dawn, packing their lunches, never missed a single school event, sat by their beds all night when they were sick. Not once did I stop and ask myself what I wanted. I was their mother. That's just what you did. And somewhere deep down, I believe something. I believe that when those children grew up, they'd remember me, that when I got old, they'd be right there beside me, that because I gave so much, something would come back to me. But nothing came back. Now, this isn't a story about being abandoned. My children aren't bad people. They're just living their own lives. That's not the problem. The problem is I never built anything outside of them. I built my whole life around my children, and they went and built lives of their own. That's just how it turned out. What I want to tell you today are 5 mistakes I made as a mother. If I'd known these things sooner, I wouldn't be sitting here alone right now. The 5th one is the heaviest. Stay with me till the end. The first thing I want to say is this: I gave everything to my children, every last bit of myself. You might think, what's wrong with that? That was the problem. When my kids were small, I never spent a thing on myself. Didn't buy clothes, didn't go to the salon. I felt guilty even going out to see a friend. Tuition, school clothes, summer camp, it all went to them. Robert's paycheck covered the bills, and whatever I could pinch and save went straight to giving those kids just a little more. Back then, I thought that was love, that a mother is supposed to sacrifice herself. My own mother lived that way, so I never questioned it. When my oldest, Michael, was heading off to college, I emptied out every penny I had saved. Without that money, he couldn't go to the school he wanted. I didn't even tell my husband, just quietly handed it over. Michael went to that school, landed a good job, and now he's doing well for himself out in Chicago. And I had nothing left. I mean nothing. I was in my mid-50s with an empty bank account, but I didn't regret it. My boy made it. That's what mothers do. At least that's what I told myself. But looking back now, that wasn't love. That was a transaction. I didn't see it at the time, but deep down I was keeping score. I gave this much, so someday something would come back to me. I never said it out loud, but there was a ledger in my heart the whole time. Giving everything to your children sounds like a beautiful thing, but here's what it really means. It means you leave nothing for yourself, and a person with nothing left has no choice but to lean on someone else down the road. If you're pouring everything into your kids right now, remember this: make sure you're not giving because you're expecting something back. Because that's not giving, that's investing, and children don't know they owe you a return. The second one is this: I expected something back. I never once said it out loud, never told my kids, I did all this for you, so now you owe me, not once. But in my heart, I was thinking it the whole time. On Thanksgiving, when all the kids came home, I'd start cooking 2 days early. Roasted the turkey, baked the pies, laid out a fresh tablecloth, and when they sat down at that table, laughing and eating together, I felt something inside me, like this was my share. This moment right here was the payoff for everything I'd given up. But once my kids hit their 30s, things started to change. The phone calls started coming in. Can't make it this year. At first there were reasons. work, the in-laws, flights are too expensive. I said it was fine, hung up the phone and looked at the table, started pulling plates, 4 down to 3, 3 down to 2. 1 year, I only set out 1. What I felt wasn't anger. It was something else. It was hurt, a deep, quiet kind of hurt. The kind you're too ashamed to say out loud, because if you do, you become that needy old mother. Mom's doing it again. I knew exactly what they say. So I swallowed it every single time. One Christmas, my daughter Catherine sent me a card, pretty card, short little note inside. Love you, Mom. Sorry I can't make it this year. I stuck it on the fridge. Then I ate Christmas dinner by myself. What I figured out later is this: what I was really expecting wasn't gratitude. It was the feeling of still mattering to someone, that there was somebody in this world who would come looking for me, that I was still important to at least one person, and I was waiting on my children to give me that. But that's not something your children can give you. That's something you've got to build for yourself. The third one is the hardest for me to talk about. I never built a life of my own. After all my children grew up, left home, and started their own families, you know what I had left? Nothing. I mean that. Nothing at all. No hobbies. Hardly any close friends. Nowhere I wanted to go. Nothing I wanted to do. For 30 years, every single day revolved around those kids. Woke up on their school schedule, cooked around their dinner time, and my day ended when they went to sleep. That was my routine. That was my whole life. And the moment those kids walked out the door, that whole routine just vanished. The day Catherine, my youngest, moved out, I closed the front door and walked back to the kitchen. Nothing on the table, nothing to prepare, no one to wait for. I sat down in the living room and didn't even turn on the television, just sat there staring at the wall. And for the first time in my life, this thought came to me. Who am I right now? Not a mother, not a wife, not somebody's something, just me, Margaret. What does she like? What does she want? What kind of day does she want to have? I had no idea. I lived 84 years and I didn't know myself. One time, a community center near me was offering a painting class, so I went. Almost didn't go because it felt strange walking in alone. When I got there, some of the women were even older than me. One lady with paint all over her hands smiled at me and said, "Coming here makes me feel like I'm still doing something with my day. That's why I keep showing up." That stuck with me for days, the feeling of still doing something. I didn't realize how precious that was. I had only ever looked for that feeling through my children, and when they left, that feeling walked right out the door with them. Living for your kids is a beautiful thing, but a life where your kids are all you've got, that's not beautiful. That's dangerous, because your children leaving isn't betrayal. It's just what's supposed to happen. And when that perfectly normal thing happens and you've got nothing else left, that's when everything falls apart. The fourth one is this, and this is the one I have the hardest time admitting. I made my children feel guilty. I never did it outright. I wasn't that kind of mother. I never once said, "After everything I've done for you." Not those words, not out loud at least, but I did it in other ways. When Michael called, I'd always slip something in. "It's so quiet around here now that Mom's all alone." That was it. Wasn't a complaint, it was the truth. But what was hiding behind that sentence was something else entirely. "I'm lonely because of you. It's like this because you don't come." I didn't realize I was doing it. I really didn't. With Catherine, it was worse. Near the end of every phone call, I'd say something like, Don't worry about me, honey. I'm fine. Now here's the problem with that. My voice didn't sound fine, and your children can hear it, every bit of it. Catherine knew. So after she hung up, she must have carried that weight around. Mom said she was okay, but why do I feel so awful right now? That kind of feeling. I did that dozens of times, maybe hundreds. When they couldn't come home for the holidays, I'd say, "That's all right, I understand." Then on the very next call, I'd say something like, "Thanksgiving was just me this year. Couldn't really taste the food eating alone like that." You know what that is? That's revenge. A very quiet, very polite kind of revenge that even I didn't know I was taking. One day my second son, Daniel, called and said this to me. "Mom, every time I call you, I feel like I've done something wrong. And that's getting hard to carry." I didn't know what to say. I'd never yelled at him, never demanded a thing, but when I sat with it, I knew Daniel was right. I wasn't asking with words. I was asking with guilt. I did it with sighs, with silence, with all the things I tucked inside the phrase, "I'm fine." And when that piles up, you know what happens? They stop calling, not because they don't love you, because every time they pick up that phone, they feel like they've already failed you. I was trying to pull them closer, but that's exactly what pushed them away. When you say you love someone but hand them guilt instead, they don't feel loved. They feel trapped. I learned that far too late. The fifth one. This is the last, and this is the heaviest. I saw the truth too late. There was one thing I believed my whole life, that parents are the ones who give and children are the ones who give back. Nobody sat me down and taught me that. My mother lived that way. My aunt lived that way. Every woman on my street lived that way, so I figured that's just how it works, but it doesn't. Children aren't here to give back. Children are here to leave. They grow up. They stand on their own. They build their own families. They go live their own lives. That's not betrayal. That's how it's supposed to go. If anything, that's proof you raised them right, but I couldn't see it that way. Watching my kids live their own lives made me feel abandoned. When the phone didn't ring, I took it personally. When they didn't show up for the holidays, it stung. I gave them everything. So why is nothing coming back? And that's all I kept thinking. But nothing was supposed to come back. There was never any deal. That contract only existed in my head, and I was the only one who signed it. My friend Helen showed me that better than anyone. She was 2 years older than me, had 4 kids. She was just like me, poured everything into her children, never set aside a thing in her own name, no savings of her own, no insurance. She always said the same thing: "I've got my kids. I'll be fine." Helen had a stroke at 73. Her kids took turns looking after her at first. That lasted about 3 months. They all had jobs, their own children, their own lives to run. So she ended up in a nursing home. It wasn't her choice. Nobody asked her. There was just nowhere else for her to go. When I went to visit, Helen was sitting in a wheelchair, staring out the window. She looked over at me and said one thing: "My kids aren't bad people. They just have their own lives." I should have figured that out a long time ago. That hit me hard, because Helen's story could have been mine. The only difference was one thing: I hadn't fallen yet. Your children are not your retirement plan. Your children are people you love, not people responsible for you. If you want to lean on your kids someday, you'd better be standing on your own 2 feet first. I didn't see that until I was 84 years old. There's one thing that took me 84 years to finally understand. I wasn't angry at my children. I wasn't disappointed in them. I was crushed by something I built inside my own head, an expectation that was never real. My kids didn't abandon me. They went and lived their lives. When they didn't come home for the holidays, they weren't rejecting me. They were spending time with their own families, having their own holidays. When they didn't call, it wasn't because they forgot about me. They just had a long day. And that's not just my children, that's every child in the world. But I didn't know that. Every time my kids went off and lived their own lives, it felt like something was being taken from me because they were all I had. My days were about them. My purpose was about them. My whole reason for being here was about them. So when they left, I had nothing. I see it now. Your children aren't here to stay beside you. Your children are people you love and send out into the world. You send them. You don't hold on to them. And after you send them off, what's left standing in front of you isn't your children. It's you. And everything comes down to what that person has, whether you've got friends, whether there's somewhere you want to go, whether you wake up in the morning with a reason to get through the day. If you don't have that, no amount of phone calls from your kids will fix the loneliness. But if you do have it, you'll be just fine even when they don't come around. Your children's lives belong to them. You've got a place in it, but their life is not your life. If I had understood that at 60, I wouldn't be sitting here like this right now. I want to ask you something. You, listening to this right now, are you living for your children, or are you living because of your children? Those are two very different things. Living for your kids is love, but living because of them is dependence. And dependence looks a lot like love at first. But at the end of the road, it turns into resentment. Let me ask you this. Imagine tomorrow morning all your kids are busy. No calls, no visits, nothing for a whole month. Would your days still be okay? Would you have something to get up for, someone to see? Would you still be standing on your own as a person? If that shakes you, then now's the time to change it. You can live alongside your children, but you cannot live leaning on them. You've got a place in your children's lives, but that place cannot be your whole life. I learned this at 84. You just learned it right now. That means you can start before I ever did. Build your own life now, starting today.